Oh, welcome in. This is your Jock Market Power Hour for this week's Wells Fargo Championship. I'm Rick Game of that right there. Joe Idoni. Joe, we are back at it again, and we've got ourselves a decent little field here, and I think we're going to get a good field this week, a good field next week, and then a major championship right around the corner.
Yeah, excited for this next little run. Not totally new course this week. We've seen it before, but definitely a change in venues from where we traditionally are used to sort of pinpointing the Wells Fargo in our heads. Obviously, next week we go down to Texas and then Tulsa, Oklahoma for the second major championship of the season. Good to be back, as always, with you, my friend, here on Power Hour.
Yeah, that's right. Next 45 minutes or so is the most crucial point of this week's Jock Market for the PGA Tour. This is the IPO phase. So as of right now, you can bid on shares of golfers. When this market closes a few minutes before 9 p.m. Eastern time, if you are one of the high bidders for those shares, you are going to get those shares allocated to your portfolio. And then, Joe, we know that's really just the beginning. We enter the live trading mode where you can buy more, you can sell shares, you can short golfers, and then that's where you can see those payouts and those values fluctuating over the course of the next 4 days.
Yeah, it's interesting because we spoke a little bit before we went hot, but the strategy in these sort of PGA and all jock market contests is consistently evolving and changing. And we're here to sort of help you navigate the nuances that are working today versus what worked previously. And the beauty of it is we have new users. If you're new here, please, we'll try to be as informative as we possibly can. Drop your name. We may throw you some free bucks to get you off the schneid and get started on the right foot. And our old friends are back as always. So looking forward to the next 40 minutes covering the close of this IPO.
Yeah, that's right. Jock Market username in the chat. Drop it in there. Get yourself eligible to win some Jock Bucks. If you haven't deposited yet, the code you're looking for is POWER. That'll get you up to a $50 deposit bonus. And Joe, we turn our attention to the Wells Fargo Championship this week, but last week was a pretty good one too because we made history last week. Jon Rahm was the most expensive golfer in Jock Market IPO history, $12.99. And what do you know? He went out, he won the golf tournament and returned you $12.01 per share. How about that?
Yeah, unbelievable. The highest we've ever seen a player IPO for, like you just mentioned, and still able to double your money. Also historic last week, our first ever PGA Tour Pro joined us here on the Power Hour. So that was a ton of fun. But a very interesting week. So 2 of the top 3 in terms of pre-rank finished 1 and 2 for the week. And then it was kind of a mixed bag from there. I think that we were on the right path. That we spoke about on the show, in which driving distance was going to be an important factor. If you look at the leaderboard,
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So it should be another fun week this week where we can kind of dissect the course and hopefully isolate some players with some valuable returns.
Yeah, and just to give you an idea, because I think this is really a good illustration of what happens in the jock market. So this is every golfer in the field over their last 10 cash markets. Sepp Straka has the highest average ROI. Anirban Lahiri's up there. Kurt Kitayama, Bo Hostler. So you start to look at these guys here, Joe. Straka did it with a victory, so he kind of had that one spike week, but he's had a couple of good starts since. No wins for Lahiri, no wins for Kitayama, no wins for Hostler, none for Cam Young, none for Kuchar, none for Trainer. This is still a profitable path in the jock market, even with guys that are not even coming remotely close to winning golf tournaments.
Look at that data. That is really something. And if you are, obviously new here, this is all available on your website, as you always mention, for completely free. But it's just awesome to see because look at those average IPOs. The top 4 guys are all in that $2 range. I don't see anyone on that list above $4.83 in terms of average return. So really, I think that's where a lot of the bread is continuously buttered here in the jock market, is finding these guys in the $2, $3, $4 range and having consistent top 40 finishes out of them. Like you mentioned, it doesn't take a victory always to get it done and be able to double your profit.
Yeah, that's right. And we are going to reveal the big board for the Wells Fargo Championship. But Joe, I'm not It's not lost on me that John Rahm, the heavy favorite who went wire to wire last week, Patrick Cantlay, Xander Schauffele, there wasn't a cash market for the Zurich Classic, but they were basically the favorites. They went wire to wire. We do have one guy who kind of stands alone at the top of the betting board, Rory McIlroy, this week. We'll play bullish and bearish in a second, but do you think what we've seen kind of the last 2 weeks on the PGA Tour is going to influence action here on this Wednesday night?
Yes, I think it probably influences action. I also don't think because you spun the wheel last week and it turned over and the ball landed on black, that it's more or less likely to be black this week. We also saw Scheffler, who was one of these sort of co-favorites for the Masters, kind of win and take that thing down as well. So they've been on a nice little run here for the top of the odds boards. That said, I don't know about this week. I don't know if this is the best course fit for Rory. But that again, he's head and shoulders above mostly the rest of the field in terms of odds pricing, in terms of fantasy pricing, and in terms of ceiling talent level.
Well, you talk about setup because it's worth noting, and if you haven't realized by this Wednesday night, we're not playing Quail Hollow tomorrow. The boys are not in North Carolina. They're in Maryland. They're playing over at TPC Potomac, which, as you noted, Joe, we've got 2 years worth of data, 2018, 2017 Quicken Loans National. And it's different than Quail Hollow. It's different than what we saw last week. I believe you're going to have to be a bit more precise off the tee, but they kind of got rained on out there today. I think that might help make things a little bit easier on what could have been a fairly difficult tour setup.
100%. And I think that the course is from my friend Keith, who's got boots on the ground out there. The course is playing wet. It is playing soft. Those were the conditions where we saw Francisco Molinari, of course, barrage the field on his way to 21 under here at this event. So I think we probably see a little more of that type of tournament than we do see of the -7 in which Kyle Stanley won. That said, wind can obviously play a huge factor and be a major defense of the golf course. And if that is up, could negate some of the soft conditions.
Even taking the weather into account, what types of golfers are we looking for? Weather would make this play a little bit longer, but we know you don't want to be in the 3.5 or 4 inch rough, especially when it's wet, Joe. That can cause some difficult situations as well. So is this an opportunity to get those real value accurate golfers, the Ryan Armours that we've seen on the first page of the leaderboard at TPC Potomac before?
I think it's a great narrative this week. I'm going to kind of definitely favor that a little bit. Positional off the tee, utmost importance this week. So being in the fairway, finding that, whether that means driver, whether that means 2-iron, whether that means 4-iron off the tee, finding yourself in the short grass with a proper angle to sort of attack some of these smaller greens is going to give yourself opportunities in which you can roll in a couple putts. We haven't seen like elite putters prevail here. It's mostly ball strikers. It's mostly guys that are really accurate and consistent off the tee. That's what we know in the 2 years that we saw at the Quicken Loans National. So that's kind of the narrative that I'm going to stick with this week.
All right, fair enough. We are moments away from getting to the big board. Make sure you drop your Jock Market username in the chat. That'll get you entered into a draw for a little bit of cash money. Make sure you use the code POWER if you haven't deposited using that yet. But, Joe, I think it's time to play a little bullish or bearish, our opportunity to pick 4 golfers and take a stand on them. And as we start this segment, if there's anybody else you'd like to see in the chat, go ahead, drop it in. We'll see if we can squeeze them in at the end. Let's just start with the guy. Let's start with Rory McIlroy. You said this might not be a great setup for him. His fair value tonight, $9.95 a share, asking him to finish about 12th or better. Joe, what do you see? What do you think out of Rory McIlroy?
All right. I kind of alluded to it a little bit, but I'm going to take a bearish side. I think this is a totally different course fit and setup for Quail Hollow, which was ideal, which he could play his big high draw off the tee, and was perfect for him. Nice performance there on Sunday. They got that big jump. Obviously, remember the hole out at the Masters to cash $20 per share. But you see there, volatile, right? For being one of the top players in the world, Rory has a lot of ups and downs, and the majority of those downs, I would make the argument, are coming on courses that don't necessarily suit his game, on courses that may not necessarily have his full attention. coming into the major season at Southern Hills. I think this is a little bit potentially more of a tune-up week for Rory. He's showing up here as a defending champ out of somewhat of an obligation, even though they switched the course up. He alluded to it a little bit in some of the interviews that he did today, that it's going to play very difficult. I just think asking him to finish 12th or better is a little high for me. What about you?
Boy, I'm certainly more bullish on Rory than you are, although at this price, right, 12th or better at a place we've never seen him play. You look at the results in cash markets here in 2022. He's played 5 of them. He's made you money in 2 of them. It's not the vintage type of Rory, and Rory also always gets, Joe, the Rory bump, right? Like whether he deserves it or not, like people like Rory, they're going to spend money on him. It's kind of the opposite of Hideki. Even when Hideki's at his best, it's like, he's 50 cents or 75 cents a share too cheap. So while I think I'm more excited about Rory than you are, I think in this scenario where you've got to assign a fair value to everybody and you've got to translate that to their finishing position, I believe I'm a bear tonight.
What was interesting there too is the 2 markets that you showed that he was the number 1 player in that market were the 2 that he had his biggest losses at. So 78% at the Hero, where he pre-ranked number 1, as well at the Valero Texas Open, where he missed the cut and seemingly couldn't hit a wedge, couldn't find a fairway there. So it hasn't shaped up well when he comes in as a heavy favorite.
Let's move on down a little bit. Mark Leishman, who I could argue is the most difficult guy to figure out. Joe, he's got 2 really good finishes in the 2 times that he has played at TPC Potomac. It's been 2.5 years since he's won an individual event. He's got a couple of fine finishes recently. We're using $7.52 as his fair value tonight. That's about 20th or better, Joe. Bull or bear on Leishman?
I'm going to go bear again. I just don't think that he's quite accurate enough off the tee, and this is a great fit for his game. You mentioned 2 decent finishes, but I'm going to go ahead and sort of look at more of the recent form for Leishman, which certainly has its fair share of ups and downs. Hasn't really had a terrific finish this year to date. So, his highest payout is $8.50 in the 2022 season. He's coming in at a fair value projection tonight of $7.50. So there's just not enough there to squeeze for me. I'm going to go on the bearish side for Leishman. Rick, did I lose you, buddy?
That's my fault. I was on mute and then I was just ranting like a madman for the last 30 seconds. I'm glad you finally cut me off.
Please recite that rant for us. We're waiting for it.
I can't get there with Leishman. I think you nailed it with the inaccuracies off the tee that worry me in a big way. Now he's kind of broken. He's kind of broken it a couple of times where he's been inaccurate around here and he's played well. He's been inaccurate around Torrey and he's won there. So yeah. I get that. But I think if the tour, if they unleash preferred lies on us on Thursday morning, playing out of the fairway becomes way, 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 way more valuable. And I will just risk it and ask Mark Leishman to burn me again. I'll be a bear.
Yeah, I think so too. This rough could be fairly gnarly too. Like you mentioned, this Kentucky blue sort of ryegrass is when it gets wet and heavy, and if it's up like it was back in 2017, it is going to be a priority and a must to be in the short grass.
Tony Finau's next. $7.13 is the fair value we're using. 21st or better. Joe, I'm gonna reveal his game logs in all its glory. He was awesome last week. He has been horrendous otherwise. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 consecutive losers. 9, 10, 11, 12. He's been a loser in 12 of his last 14. But I'll tell you what, I feel like public sentiment is chugging along on Tony Finau.
trending in what was a bad direction, has sort of flipped that narrative, I believe, kind of on its head with one good performance last week. And it's really the iron play that has really turned around for him. 3 consecutive events gaining strokes on approach and tee to green. I think that the ability that he showed last week to drive it relatively straight, albeit on a totally different course setup, but gaining 8.2 strokes on approach is hard to ignore. We've seen, like I mentioned, not exactly a crop of elite world-class putters compete and play well here in the past. I do think this is a decent setup for Tony and where his game is right now at this very moment. I'm not going to penalize him too much for where he was at in March and February through the struggles. I'm going to lean more on what I saw last week, which was pretty good. I'm going to say bullish.
I will be just I need one more. I need to see one more. I need to see him do it in Mexico, and I need to see him do it here. I think that the swap from Vedanta to TPC Potomac is probably one of the larger differences in back-to-back weeks in terms of comparing two courses or contrasting two courses. I'll be very, very impressed if he does it again. I will make him prove me wrong. I'll be a bear here, but this is the one I'm most scared about, Joe.
Okay. One guy left, right?
Yeah, finally, and it's Cam Young. $6.46 is what we're using. 25th or better. I'll be the bull here, right? I mean, I've said it all week long. I'm very impressed with what he's done. He's my rookie of the year. He's doing it at a bunch of different golf courses. I know that on paper he's long, and that's the elite skill set, but he did it around Harbor Town. I finally get to be a bull on somebody, and Cam Young is that guy for me.
Yeah, me too, dude. Number 1 in strokes gained off the tee over the last 24 rounds. He hasn't lost in a cash market since January 16th, all the way back at the Sony Open. I'm sorry, I had that sort a little bit wrong there. I had it by profit, but you can see there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 10. He's been net positive in terms of ROI for you. Just playing great. And Keith sort of brought this up on Preferred Lines this week. This is sort of his region, his time of year, and he's in great form. Got both of those Korn Ferry wins last year in the summer. Very familiar with this sort of Northeast difficult test on bent grass, which is what he grew up playing on, and there in New York and Sleepy Hollow, where his dad is obviously the head pro. You mentioned the ability to compete at all different types of golf courses. Normally, you wouldn't lean bomber here at TPC Potomac, but this guy's really accurate for as far as he hits it, and he's shown that ability thus far this year. I really like his chances this week as well. I'm going to go bullish.
I love it. That concludes our bullish and bearish segment. Let me give away a little bit of money real quick. Zubalos, congratulations. You are on the board. $20 coming your way. If you want to be like Zubalos, go ahead and make sure that your Jock Market username is in the chat right now. Joe, I think it's time. Let me unveil the big board and familiar name at the top. Cam Young, 601. A lot of early steam for him. We just talked about him, but like, what is realistically the highest he could go? We've got him at 646 is the fair value. He's already at 601, so seemingly he's going to break through that. What's the ceiling on Cam Young tonight?
I will say like $8, which is basically asking him to top 20, which is much higher than his fair value projection. I think that he gets close to that. The early bump obviously would mirror sort of public sentiment, and a lot of people like him with very good reason this year. It's these young guys we're a little bit slow on them at times, which may be why his fair value projection is so low in comparison to what a lot of us who pay close attention to see as the upside, right? Still in search of that first PGA Tour victory. I think this could be a big week for him. 601, a little surprised to see him out top, but obviously people want some shares and they want that action this week with good reason.
Yeah, then we've got not a lot of big names right behind Cam Young. Early returns on Doug Gim. He's $4.40. Kevin Streelman is $4.25. Brandon Wu, who had a really good week last week, $3.64. We're back on Honor Bond at $3.63. And then Max Homa, who won this event, not here, but won this event in 2019 at $3.33. So not a lot of early money coming in on the big names, Joe. Anything stand out to you here for what we've seen early in this market?
A lot of plotters, a lot of guys who hit a lot of fairways. Ryan Armour, Nate Lashley, Martin Laird right there underneath. I think a lot of people are sharing sort of a groupthink mentality this week. And you're going to want plotters. You're going to want guys that hit a lot of fairways. And let's get those bids in now on these guys in sort of the $3-4 range. And then that way we can pay a little closer attention to the top of the board as we get closer to IPO finish.
Yeah, even just with one more refresh, Joel Damon, another accurate driver off the tee, finds his way. Tyler Duncan, 275. So it really is. They're buying into this, right? We said we've got 2 years of data. We've seen kind of the trends of who does well here. I love this. This to me says that people are paying attention. Now we'll see how it finishes, but this is a really good start to our Wednesday night.
Yeah, people are embracing the data this year. And I've tried to be one of those people as well, Rick, and pay a little more attention to the stat models and less on what my eyes are telling me and more on what the numbers, which are clearly unbiased, do tell you. I will say that there is an avenue toward zagging there and going anti-groupthink, and you may be able to find some value if this turns out the wrong way for a lot of people in this contest. There may be a little bit of a leverage position, but with so much data, so much resources available now at the tips of our fingers, it's no surprise to see a lot of people with a similar thought process.
Well, it is interesting. And we can talk a little kind of game theory here for a second, because this is a similar conversation we just had a couple of weeks ago at Harbor Town, right? And Jordan Spieth won. Cam Young was in the mix. Cam Davis was in the mix. I don't think those would have been guys that we would have identified Wednesday night as like the greatest course fits in the history of Harbor Town. So there is obviously, Joe, some paths to doing it differently. How much zagging is there to be done this week?
It depends. It depends on the price, like it always does. I think that there isn't a valid strategy point to that. One of these weeks, these players are going to turn the stat models on their heads, and maybe it is a week like this where we're pulling data and stuff like that from 2017 that may not be as relevant 5 years later. And we have this idea of exactly how the course is going to play. Well, even 27 to 2018, the course played vastly different. So now fast forward that an additional 4 years, and who really knows what to think. I know that they lengthened this course a little bit, shifted maybe a couple of tee boxes around a hair. For the most part, it's very similar to what they last saw. But like I mentioned, the guys aren't drawing back in the memory banks. I can't imagine too much from 5 years ago.
That's probably true. Rory McIlroy made his move. He's now the most expensive golfer in the cash market, as expected. He's $6.66 a share. So, Joe, let me use that as an opportunity to look at the top 10 here. And as we saw last week, and I believe the cash market before that, the top 10 was a little late to come around. Now we were at $5 on Max Homa. We're at $4.54 on Tony Finau, but Russell Henley's here, Terrell Hatton's here, Paul Casey, Corey Connors, Matt Fitzpatrick, Mark Leishman, Sergio Garcia. Who out of this top 10 do you think is the most likely guy or guys that you'll be targeting here?
I liked Terrell Hatton. I think that there's sort of a sentiment. First things first, he's number 2 in the pre-rank, which we know the meaning of that in Jock market.
Yeah, it's valuable.
He's been up and down, and I think the general consensus on Hatton this year is kind of, he hasn't played that well, right? Something's not right. Well, it hasn't been all that bad either, really, if you look at it. Besides the Masters, where he's never really played well, his previous 4 starts were a 2nd, a 13th, a 21st, and a 26th. So 26 was the worst finish of the previous 4 starts. And you look at where he's sort of, he's not great off the tee right now when you look sort of some of the long-term numbers, but he was pretty good at Arnold Palmer, which is demanding off the tee and very much requires you to be in a proper position. He was pretty good at the Valspar, which I think makes a good comp in terms of the tightness of some of these holes. The irons have really turned around as well. 5 consecutive starts, gaining strokes on approach. I'm kind of bullish on Tyrrell Hatton this week, and we'll see where that price ends up. Obviously nowhere near $1, but between the pre-rank and some of the trends that I've seen, I'm anxious to see where he's going to finish.
Yeah, and I agree with you on Hatton, and what's kind of masked here in the jock market tools is that he played well on the DP World Tour earlier this year. He played in the Zurich with Danny Willett, and they got through the cut line and played well enough. So like it's probably been better than his jock market stats indicate, which I think is always something to keep an eye on. There's probably a case to be made that Corey Connors, Joe, currently $1.25, and I'll give that a refresh, is like just like you could have identified 6 weeks ago, once you knew anything about TPC Potomac, that Corey Connors would probably be a good fit. I think it's most likely that he is the second most expensive golfer this evening. I just think that's where we're going to end up. How do you assess Connors, and what price are you willing to pay on him?
Yeah, I think it's either him or Finau this week, and I think that price, whatever it is going to be too high for me to pay. Now, I understand the consistency that he brings to the table and how this should be a perfect course fit for him, but I just think that I just don't trust certain parts of his game, particularly in contention late, as have proven to be valid, I guess, throughout the last couple of years. I just think he's going to get too priced out for me to be there. What about you? Like, where do you consider a good break even spot for old Corcon?
Yeah, probably like $8.
Mm-hmm.
Something.
He's going to be higher than that.
And he's going to be right. I think he's going to be much higher than that. I mean, well, 837 is 16th. So maybe like 825, but he's going to be more than that. He's obviously going to go for more than what his fair value is. He finished T12 at Heritage. That was a winning week. Masters T6. Obviously that was a winning week. He won the Players. He won at the API. I mean, it's been a good stretch for Corey Connors, and I think people are going to expect that to continue again this week. We are kind of in a bit of a slugfest here. Rory McIlroy takes a swing. Cam Young takes a swing. I have a feeling I know how this is going to end, and it's not going to be with Cam Young on top, but fun to see him out front early here. And then we just saw a big move, Joe, in the last few seconds on Gary Woodland. 579. I've argued this week that like Gary was great. Gary was very popular last week. Went for 822. That was the most expensive we've ever seen him. And T24 is fine, but he was a loser. And now I think people, maybe not. He's 579 early. I thought we're going to be a little gun shy on Gary.
Same. I thought they were going to be gun shy on him too, and it might be a decent week for him, but apparently there is enough people that are bidding the Gary up. Look, I actually kind of had this narrative in my head for a while that the shorter, really tight golf courses were more aligned and a better fit for Gary Woodland. When I did some digging into the stats this week, that doesn't necessarily bear out, especially recently. So I don't know, we're going back up to bent grass, which is of course not his preferred surface. He really had a really good swing there through the Bermuda, Florida swing. I don't know. The interesting one to me, Rick, honestly, is Matt Fitzpatrick. And I think that this does draw some decent comparisons to RBC Heritage. Everyone was all over Fitz last week. It's his favorite golf course. He missed the cut. I feel like he burned a lot of people. If you rule out the Players, which I think we're all okay after watching that this year with sort of redlining that, 5 straight events prior to that within the top 14 or better. Really consistent, plays hard golf course as well, great at avoiding bogeys, really good on difficult par fours, and a decent putter. I think you may be able to catch a little bit of value on him, and I just haven't heard his name a whole lot this week. So I think like when we mentioned Connors and Woodland and Finau, I think the sneaky one for me to pay attention to is going to be Matt Fitz.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Had basically his worst putting performance ever at Heritage. I'm willing to forgive that. Joe, let's kind of look in this $5 down to $4 range. Luke List is here. Matt Kuchar, Keegan Bradley, Keith Mitchell. Anybody you feel is worth pointing out kind of in this next tier down that has your attention?
Yes. So a couple of players. Sepp Straka's playing really good golf right now, and it goes beyond just the win at the Honda Classic. Obviously played great at the Heritage there. Good performance at the Players, and in his first Masters T30. That's not to be overlooked. So the guy's just in a nice groove at the moment. The other one for me that I like and I actually bet this week is Brian Harman. When I sorted by sort of, difficult scoring conditions, Brian Harman, despite what you would think about not being extremely long off the tee, plays those type of courses in those type of situations pretty well. Really accurate off the tee, top 10 in strokes gained off the tee, top 10 in driving accuracy, pretty good in greens and regulation. He's been really volatile this season, but I think there's enough good finishes on similar golf courses to have me on the bullish side of Harman this week.
Oh, love it. Love it. Okay. Let's continue to go further down the list. Let's talk about these guys sub $4. So the guys that jumped out to an early start, Laird, Lashley, Duncan, haven't really moved. They're all kind of in the same exact spot. Armour, I believe you can throw into that category as well. And then we enter some other shorter, more accurate hitters. Hubbard and Stewart. Hostler has not been accurate, $2.55. Who down here do you think might be worth adding to that favorites list and potentially investing in over the course of the next, call it 12 minutes?
Yeah, Hayden Buckley's a nice little young player sitting there right now. If I'm up to date at 301, Russell Knox I have a little bit of interest in him. Ches Reavie, of course, anytime that driving accuracy is going to play, if you believe in that narrative that it's going to play a factor, probably the most accurate driver on tour to date. And the other one that's kind of interesting at $1.85 right now is Lucas Glover. I think he probably finishes in the mid $4 range, so we'll see a little run up on him. But some decent finishes coming in. The approach numbers have been really solid, particularly with longer irons, so 175 to 200 yard range. That's another guy I kind of have my eye on here.
Yeah, I just gave the board a refresh here, so I've got the updated numbers. Ton of guys still at $1, including some of those shorter guys that you might be interested in. But the top of the board, Joe, shape it up. And speaking of runs, Rory McIlroy is making a run, 952, getting ever so dangerously close to his fair value already, just 40 cents shy of it. Matt Fitzpatrick has now taken the silver medal, $7.86. And then Russell Henley is here, 752. Let's talk about Russ. I think it's clear, Joe. It's been tough on Sundays for him, right? He hasn't always closed it out, but the advanced metrics are great. The finishing positions are generally very good. Is 752 and climbing, is that going to be too rich for your blood for a guy who might not have the win equity?
You don't necessarily need the win equity here, though. Even when he had the collapse of all collapses, not only at the Sony, but at the Wyndham Championship through the fall swing of last year, still a big returner in the jock market in both of those when he pretty much seemingly let everyone down who had a decent Russell Henley ticket. You had shares in the jock market, you were still very happy at the end of the day there. I just think he's really good on approach. He's really good with his wedges. This should be an ideal sort of course fit for a player like Russell Henley. You don't necessarily need the win, but like you had kind of alluded to there, Rick, $7.50, $8, that's asking a lot out of old Russ.
The most expensive he's been, well, let's just do it this way. $925, but that was on a different planet, 2020 RSM. $908 American Express last year. The most expensive he's been in 2022 was $725. So I mean, we're over that. This is the most expensive he's been in 2022. So people are willing to pay up here. Let me flip this around and look at the top 10. Hatton, he might have moved. I'll give this a refresh. Still at $1. Okay, here's a guy we got to talk about. Paul Freak.
Yeah, I was hoping you would bring him up.
What in the world are we going to do with Paul? Let me just make sure we're on the same page here. So third at the Players, where he gets very unlucky on 18, and his ball goes in a pitch mark, right? Then he withdraws from the WGC,
Yes.
withdraws from the Masters, started both of those. I haven't seen him since, right? Now, like what are we doing with Paul Casey right now?
I don't know. And I don't know. I was kind of hoping that you maybe had some inside info for me there. I know that he withdrew from the Pro-Am today, which wasn't great weather. And is that we've seen this before with guys where people get scared off and then you get them for a cheap price. But obviously, 2 withdrawals in the tournaments prior, he actually looked good at the Masters. Like, he started that thing off and wasn't bad. And yeah, I don't know, $1, like, I'm willing to get there, probably sub $5 on Paul Casey and take a chance this week on a guy that has won twice at Valspar on what I think is a pretty decent comp. And just the upside there. The other one, like, he's the weird one that I don't really know about. The other sort of one is Webb. Like, what do we do with Webb? Like, oh, how the mighty have fallen. He's all the way down to 21st pre-rank in this field on what should be a Webb course. You know, we've seen traditionally that he always pops on his spots, and it's a pretty safe bet. That said, 59th at the Heritage. That's not great for him. 61st at the Sony, which has normally been a good spot for Webb Simpson. So are we ready to be in a buy low spot for Webb, or do you need to see a little more positives?
Oh, I need to see more. I just, he's played 5 events now since he kind of came back, and it's been all over the place. The putter hasn't been good either. I'm sure it's probably practice time, but I think it is. There's going to be a week we get burned on Webb, and I'll probably just be late, but there's not even breadcrumbs at the moment. And I like to see those breadcrumbs. The thing about Paul Casey, and I hate to bank on this, but I mean, if he WDs, the guys at Jock Market are going to make it right, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. They made it right at the Masters in which I had shares of him. So yeah, they're going to make it right. And at $1, you got nothing to lose. He ain't going to stick around there. But yeah, there's a certain point where I think the risk is worth the potential reward.
Yeah, if he's healthy, great. Because when he's been healthy, he's played awesome. And if he WDs, you probably get your money back. I don't know. I don't know if that's written. Is that written into the actual rules, or have they just been good at doing that? Is that just like a promotion thing, or?
I don't think it's part of the rules. I think it's just we're going to be the guys who do the right thing, which we've known our friends over at Jock Market to be pretty consistent with and adamant about. So I think that they've always kind of done that, and people are very appreciative of it from what I've heard as well.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Okay. We are getting very close to the sprint here to the finish line. So by my clock, it's 8:53. In the next couple of minutes, probably around 8:57, we're going to enter a 90-second window in which the IPO can close at any time. So, Joe, this is about the time that we start to let you go so you can get your bids organized. You can go be a part of everything, and then we can see what your portfolio looks like here at the end. But what are you envisioning tonight? Are you envisioning kind of a top-heavy portfolio? Are you envisioning trying to get as many guys as possible? Like, what would be the ideal outcome for you tonight?
Yeah, so what you kind of showed at the beginning of the show really kind of lit off a little lightning bulb in my head of sort of seeing where the biggest returners have been, and it's been in that $2, $3, $4 range. So I may try to stick to that, but like you mentioned, it's a sprint to the finish. And apropos with Kentucky Derby, I wonder, on a side note, if they will have a Jock Market for the Kentucky Derby. That would kind of be a fun little contest. Maybe we can get our guys to run that. But at the same token, the last 90 seconds is a flurry. Guys are up and down sort of that leaderboard, and you just got to pay attention. It's good to sort of favorite players and keep them up there on your tab so that they're easy to see and you can kind of check out the pricing there.
All right, now you got my wheels turning on how a Kentucky Derby market would work.
Yeah, right.
That's pretty cool. They did one for the Hero World Challenge. That was only 20. This is, there'd be what, 8? How many horses? 16, 20 horses?
20, yeah, it's 20 horses, yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. All right, Joe, get out of here. Go do your thing.
All right,
Go get your bids in. Good luck with everything. I'll take you the rest of the way here. So the coach you're looking for, if you haven't deposited yet, you want to get in on the action, it's Power. That'll get you up to a $50 deposit bonus. Let's see the state of the market right now, and probably to no one's surprise, Rory McIlroy is not only the most expensive golfer in the market, but he's $9.96, which is now officially the most expensive that Rory McIlroy has been since, that's got to be the 2021 Arnold Palmer Invitational. Yeah, it is. The 2021 Arnold Palmer Invitational. So over a year since we've seen Rory McIlroy this expensive, and we still have a couple minutes to go. Fair value, oh, you know what? I don't have the right thing here. IPO price is $9.55. I moved it. My bad. He's $9.55. His fair value is $9.96. he's probably going to be the most expensive we've ever seen him in over a year. Terrell Hatton is making a move. Now 859. All good there. Terrell Hatton coming up the board. He's your projected third ranked golfer. Let me give this a little bit of a refresh here. My dashboard's fighting back on me right now. Give it a little bit of a refresh here. We've got a couple minutes away from this turning into the random time period. Here we go. Now I've got it all situated. Rory 955, Corey Connors 806, Matt Fitzpatrick 799, Russell Henley 777, Tony Finau 736, Cam Young $7. The outlier there, I suppose, is Cam Young. He's the 22nd pre-ranked golfer. He's already 50 cents more expensive than his fair value for tonight. So that is telling me people are hot on Cam Young. It tells me that ownership across all fantasy formats likely to be very, very high. Max Homa, the contrary, a little bit. 690, but that's below his fair value. He's a top 10 pre-ranked golfer. Mark Leishman also. So this would be this lines up with kind of projected ownership, right? Mark Leishman, 552. The 7th pre-ranked golfer, he's like the 20th most expensive golfer right now. He's $2 below his fair value. What does that say? People are not putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to Mark Leishman. Makes sense. We've got Joel Damon more expensive. Johnny Vegas, Seb Straka. These are all guys that are getting a better public sentiment than Mark Leishman is right now. It's very, very intriguing. Keegan Bradley, Gary Woodland working in the middle of the $6 range. You look at the top 10 golfers. I'll give this a refresh, but as of my last refresh, Paul Casey was $4 a share. His fair value is $845. Now, the fair value doesn't know about his back. Fair value does not have insight on his potential back injury. So we'll keep an eye on that. 857 by my clock. Let me give this a little bit of a refresh here and see what happens. Let's stay with these top 10 golfers. Yeah, nobody wants Paul Casey. 401 on Paul Casey. That would be the cheapest he's been ever. Masters 2 years ago, 2020 Masters, he was 386. That was the cheapest he's ever been. So we are dangerously close to an all-time low on Paul Casey right now. Sergio Garcia, also fairly reasonably priced as the 8th pre-ranked golfer. He is still over $1 cheaper than his fair value. Let's go back to the top of the board here. Rory McIlroy, 977, trying to get through that $10 mark. Russell Henley still hanging tough. Russell Henley, and he's the 3rd pre-ranked golfer, so a very generous pre-rank, 777. Still hanging tough. We're seeing Seamus Power make a little bit of a move. We're seeing Keith Mitchell make a little bit of a move. We're seeing Doug Gim make a move into the low $5 range. Let me see if I can get another refresh in here because it's 8:58 p.m. Eastern time. This thing can close at any moment. We are in that random window. So it could close any second here. So make sure you're getting your bids in. Corey Connors, there we go. Corey Connors now trying to take over that second place, the second most expensive golfer in the jock market tonight, with Matt Fitzpatrick also in the mix. They're the only two golfers over $8 besides Rory McIlroy. Cam Young getting passed by just about everybody right now. Terrell Hatton, Tony Finau, Russell Henley, all above Cam Young. Brian Harman hanging strong, 601. Alex Smalley, a little bit of a move up to 506. Cam Davis, not necessarily a great fit, but we could have said that about Harbor Town. Played well there, $4.66. And oh, look at this, a battle between Anirban Lahiri and Ricky Fowler. Isn't that fun? That's where we're at, the current state of Ricky Fowler. I've got 859. We've got to be very close to putting this thing away. Let me give this a refresh one more time. See if we can get Rory through the $10 mark. We are not. 977, 815 for Corcon, 801 for Fitzpatrick. So Fitzpatrick hasn't moved. Cam Young, okay, he's fighting back. He's now more expensive than Tony Finau. Is he really going to go as the 5th most expensive golfer tonight? We'll see. Gary Woodland.
IPO closed.
Okay. Shut it down.
Quick one.
A little bit early, I guess. You would know better.
60 seconds or whatever. It just felt like as soon as 8:59 hit there, it went pretty quickly. A lot of action down the stretch there, Rick. We'll see. Give me a few minutes here and we'll see who pops over into my holdings, who I ended up with. Let us know who you guys ended up with as well in the comments. We'd love to see those.
Yes, please do let us know who you got. I'm finding out through the chat that the WD payback, it is now it's in the rules now.
Austin would know. He's the man.
First of all, amazing that a site would do that. And 2 now makes me really just want to go get Paul Casey shares. Like, what are you doing? If he's healthy and he finishes, he probably plays well. If he's not and he doesn't, you're gonna get your money back. This makes like Louis Oosthuizen and Paul Casey and Jason Day way more valuable in this format than anything else.
There they are. The shares are over, and guess who got themselves some Paul Casey
All right,
shares?
hold on. I'm not ready yet. Okay,
All
so
right.
Joe and his portfolio. I know it involves Paul Casey. Who else you got?
$4.99 on Paul Casey, by the way, sub $5 seems like a steal. So also at the top, 716, I got Tyrrell Hatton, who I spoke about. And then I got 6 more guys, and I kind of beat up the range that I was talking about, that $4 to $2 range. Here's who I landed on. Luke List, 425. Anirban Lahiri, 445, who's been playing well. And then the next 5 guys all in the $2 or the $1 range. So just a bunch of flyers here. I went with Roger Sloan, Wesley Bryan, who played pretty well last week, who made me some money on some shares. David Lingmerth, who Monday queued into this thing. We haven't heard his name in a while. And you want a zig when other people are zagging in terms of driving accuracy this week, Rick. How about $1.52 on my boy Brandon Matthews?
Okay, I thought you were
This guy sends it.
Yeah, he's an absolute bomber. He makes bombers blush. Paul Casey, Tyrrell Hatton, Luke List, Anirban Lahiri, Roger Sloan, Wesley Bryan, David Lingmerth, Brandon Matthews. I don't think Matthews is in a featured group or anything, but I'm going to need some eyeballs on him at some point because he is just a freaking bomber.
Yeah, he's got his I think his fairway finder, I think Dan Rappaport tweeted, driver in the bag this week that he carries a cool 330 in the air. So $1.52, what's the worst you could lose? 50 cents a share. I'm taking a flyer on him. Just won a Corn Ferry Tour event about a month ago. So we'll see. Can he send it out there? Maybe take his 2-iron 300 yards down the pipe? I'm willing to pay to find out.
Scott Wise says, is this chart fair IPO available to individuals? If so, where can I find it? So if you're talking about my tool, no. But Joe, that's all in the app, isn't it?
Yeah, all the data is there. And all the data is there on your site as well. But this one that live sort of projects that you have is something that is only granted to 2 lucky individuals, you and I. But we share it with everyone. We don't hold it to ourselves. So you can watch it right here.
Yeah, the data logs and all that stuff on RickRunGood.com, that's all available. This live tool, no, that's ours. But if you can get access to the API, right? I mean, I don't know. Yeah. A lot of that stuff is over some people's head, but it is actually available, I suppose, if you really wanted to consume it in this way. But you just have to like tap into the API and do it.
And like you mentioned, the API is right there. If you understand and you want to sort of work a little system and figure out different ways to sort the data, they will let you do that. So just reach out to them.
Shane went with Hatton, Fitz, Homa. Like that already. Kuchar, Young, Power. Oh, man, this is right up my alley. Lashley, ooh, and Chappell. I don't have much of an opinion on Chappell, but if Shane makes a lot of money this week, Joe, I will make a lot of money this week.
Yeah, that's pretty top heavy for Shane. So that's sort of, but that's a nice sort of powerful opening 6 players there. I think any one of them have a pretty good chance of taking down the $25 payout, which swings anything really. No matter how many guys you got or whoever you got, if you can land the guy who finishes first, you're gonna have a good week in Jock Market.
Well, we nailed the top of the board. Rory McIlroy 977, Corey Connors 888. That is 977. The most, well, I guess no. Rory was just 958 at Valero, but that's pretty close to a recent all-time high on Rory. Corey Connors 888. That is the most expensive he's been since the Sony. I think it's well deserved. Those 2 guys were always going to be one tonight.
Yep, you're right. You called it from the start.
Matt Fitzpatrick 801. I like that. I'm in on Matty Fitzpatty. I worry about this Russell Henley 777. He's like the sabermetrics, like advanced, whatever you want to do. Russell Henley looks great. But he still worries me on Sundays, and he just worries me. But to your point, he doesn't have to win. Just don't just don't drop to T13. Just finish like T4.
Yeah, you're right, though. He's totally the golf's version of the sabermetrics guys, because you can isolate certain stats that skew in favor of Russell that are going to make him look like such a fantastic player over his ceiling. And then you can isolate others that are going to make him look bad. So it depends on the narrative that you want to take. But big price there on Henley. It's going to be tough to live up to.
Cam Young, 755. Now, Joe, I know that the only fantasy website that exists on planet Earth it's Jock Market. That's where you should go play. But if there were other fantasy sites and you woke up tomorrow morning and you checked the ownership, I think your eyes are going to pop out of your head when you see what Cam Young is, because the public is loving him, right, and rightfully so. But that is a massive number on him.
Yep. Flavor of the week. Higher price this week, though, than Tony Finau and Tyrrell Hatton.
Amazing.
That screams like something's a little bit wrong to me. So I love Cam Young. I bet him this week at 40-1. But do I think that he's more likely to win than Finau or Hatton? Probably not.
By far the most expensive he's ever been. Now he's a young guy, doesn't have as much experience, but by far the most expensive. You mentioned it, Tony Finau behind, Tyrrell Hatton, Max Homa, all behind. Pretty good price on Gary Woodland here. Pretty bullish on Woodland. He was 666 with like 5 minutes to go and never moved off of that. So I don't know if people just decided, hey, that's enough on Gary Woodland, but I could see that being quite favorable.
Yeah, and you know what? It seems like a fair price, to be honest, on Abe Answer right above him. Now, if you look at the recent finishes, he's minus, like what is that, like 10 straight markets that he's lost you money for Abe Answer, even going back to Mexico. But ideally, you think of the upside, you think of what he did in Memphis, you think of the perfect sort of course fit that demands accuracy off the tee and on approach. Should be a great spot for Answer. Seems like a good price, but it's been a bloodbath in the markets as of late.
Yeah, here's Paul Casey, $4.99 as you mentioned, cheaper than Troy Merritt. That's interesting. Lipsky, Jason Day. Lipsky at 486 is kind of fun. He's been awesome.
Yeah, he was really good. I think the only guy that eclipsed Finau last week in tee to green. Is that right?
That sounds right, because he gained. I don't know his number. He gained like 4.5 strokes off the tee and like another 4.5 on approach or something.
Yeah,
so
he was good.
Let's see what else we got. There was one. Oh, Lashley at 401. I could get behind. Anything else stand out to you here?
How about Molinari? We don't see him a lot. Anything here? We've seen him sort of go back to spots that he traditionally plays well and make a random pop appearance. Haven't seen him much at all. That I haven't seen him swing a golf club on TV or on my phone in a long time.
Yeah, Masters was his last cash market. Missed the cut. Hayden Buckley, 315. Kramer Hickok, 315. I'm just trying to see. Reavie, you pointed out. Reavie's like, if you think that you get anything close to what he did in Mexico, this is like the best buy on the board. He was horrible before that, but his advanced metrics in Mexico were excellent. And he lost a ton of strokes off the tee, but he probably can't do that here, Joe. Like, he lost a ton in Mexico because everyone was just bombing it past him. He probably can't lose that many off the tee here. So there's a chance this Reavie thing is the best buy.
Yeah, that looks really nice at sub $3 there.
Just try to see what else we have. Matthew Wolff, 215.
I know. I saw it too. I resisted. It's a cheap price. When you factor in, you get $1 per share back if he finishes dead last, and you get your money back if he withdraws. There's not much risk there, but it's been pretty bad. There's my boy Matthews, has yet to complete in a single cash market. We're seeing him this week for the first time. He's close to the bottom of the barrel there on the list.
Yeah, $1.52. Norman Zhang, that's my guy. 150, 158. I would love it if both of these guys made the cut. I just think that'd be fun.
Zhang's a bomber too, right?
I don't know. I played with him, and everything he hit looks like it was. I mean, it looks like it's going a mile, but I don't know how that is on tour. Right? It was ungodly, but I don't know. He might be the shortest guy on tour. I literally have no idea. It sounds like a shotgun was going off. So sick. That was fun. I mean, listen, so are you concerned at all about the weather, or like, what do you, I did not see. So I understand there's going to be rain. I understand wind is eventually going to move in. I did not necessarily think there was enough to take action on a specific wave, but in this format, you don't have to, Joe. You can just kind of wait and see and just try to be a little bit earlier than everybody else.
Exactly. You can wait and kind of monitor it as the day goes on. You can keep it live up to the minute. So I believe tomorrow there may be a slight advantage to one of the sides. Is it the afternoon side? Has a little less wind?
I'll admit, when I looked at it at 3 p.m. Eastern on my live chat, I didn't think there was an edge, or
Yeah, yeah.
I
This
didn't
was
think it was
yesterday. I was
worth.
looking. Yeah.
I didn't think it was worth taking action on. I could see like maybe, but like I did not think it was sizable. Now we might get like a rain delay, which pushes like I just did not think in the moment it was worth it.
Cool. Good to know. I trust your opinion on that. And yeah, if it's not something that's actionable, it's not something that I'm going to really factor in.
All right. Well, the jock market has just begun for this week. You can go and you can buy shares. You can sell some shares. You can start shorting some guys. Do whatever you want. Get involved. Should be a really fun week. We've got then, I was going to call it the Valero. It's the Byron Nelson. And then we are going to Southern Hills for the PGA Championship. So we've got a lot of big time golf coming up. Joe's available at Tour Picks. I'm available at RickRunGood. Anything else, Joe? Should we get out of here? Do it all again next week?
Yeah, let's do it again next week, 8:15 Eastern time. Happy to see you guys. As always this week, make sure to share it with a friend. Tell somebody you know about Jock Market, where we're here making money every Wednesday. Good to see you again.
Good luck. See ya.
Peace.